These windows can cause cancer. Why? Why do the windows cause cancer? What's up, kitties? Let's go. Hey, Prisma. Crazy. That's an Albuquerque Public Schools calendar that they just give out for free. And I've totally subbed in that exact classroom that's on there. I know exactly where that is. Like 2 or 3 times. I've been waiting for my neighbors to quiet down so I could make a video. They were playing really loud music for a while. To be honest, you may still hear them. Nice girl. Alright. Today I learned something crazy from talking with someone. I learned that this recent fatal incident that happened in Albuquerque on the east side, around like Tramway and Copper, real close to the mountains. A group of young people, this was a news story that came out like over a week ago, were like chasing somebody into an apartment to hurt the person and rob the place. And somebody inside the house shot out and killed one of the teenagers that was trying to rush the place. And it's been an interesting story that I've kind of been on the edge of. Like, the high school I'm at is close enough to that incident that police came to it to talk to people later. Though I heard that there were no students from the school I'm at involved. But anyway, the person I was talking with today started telling this story from a different perspective, because she was talking about a neighborhood kid who was part of terrorizing my family. His thing was smashing windshields, and he was a violent little dealer that hung out on corners and so on. He was the kid leading that, the bad influence on all the other ones, according to who I talked to, someone from the same neighborhood. He was the one, oh my gosh, I definitely fantasized about murdering all the people involved in the years of terror that happened to my family in that house. Now that it's actually happened for one of them, it's a little sad. Like, lost potential, you know. Just because you're a messed up teenager doesn't mean you have to be a messed up adult. I keep telling myself. And another kid that was involved in the slashing of our tires and smashing of our windshields and shooting up, and, you know, in a way connected to the shooting up of the house from before. He was there too. May have been the person who called the police, but that was a shaky detail. But I can't, what? That blew my mind to hear that today and realize that, like, what? That was that kid? I mean, yeah, if your hobby is, and passion is smashing windshields and selling fentanyls at street corners all night, that's a bad path. This kid was crazy. I mean, he ran at my car one time when I was in it. He and this other kid. The kid that died must have been like 14 by now. Maybe 13. I think I read in the news 15, so yeah, he might have, yeah, that makes sense. I've known these kids since they were little kids. It's crazy. I mean, one lived on our street, another lived in an apartment complex nearby. After our house got shot up by someone that associated with one of their house, that one, and possibly another sibling, was involved in coming back and slashing tires and smashing windshields. We have all this video from different sources and neighbors. I think I can tell who everyone is. Anyway, I can't believe it. I can't believe it was that kid. But I can totally believe it also. Like, I have a very connected life. All the different elements are connected, like I live in a novel or something. Maybe that's everybody. Look at Prisma. So beautiful, you're distracting. What a pretty cat. You too. If anyone watched that recent biopic series about Julia Child, Bernard DeVoto's wife is kind of a significant character in it. I think it was just called Julia. Okay, that's content right there. That's quality content. The cat got in the half-empty bookcase. Right there. This is the stuff people go to YouTube for. A cat getting in a bookcase. Come on. This was unscripted. By me anyway. Squirrel might have scripted it. I'm structuring out a novel. I'm going to write it in November. Even if NaNoWriMo is going bankrupt, I'm still going to write a 50,000 word novel that I've been wanting to write in November. But I'm going to have it meticulously scripted out, because the first time I did not do that, and it was not a great publishable read at the end. But it was still a useful exercise that I don't regret because it generated so many just like spontaneous ideas that are really good set pieces that I still remember and I'm going to incorporate. A tribute to the Mountain Man. Bernard DeVoe was a good writer about the West. He edited together that collection of Lewis and Clark's journals and abridged it that I love. Yeah, that one. Edited by Bernard DeVoe. This is a beautiful old paperback. I like it as an object. It's kind of a disorienting effect, the stripes on the spine. I like it. Until the binding's on the stiff, you gotta be careful reading it. This looks like a tragic and affecting work. The Long Death, the Last Days of the Plains Indians. Whoa. A vividly swiftly paced account of the Plains Indian Wars and the dispossession of the Plains Indians in the half century after 1840. Wow. That's a beautiful book, too. I love books as objects when they're good. Impressive. Includes every single battle and massacre. The New Yorker. It's a weird quote to me. It's weird to see it featured in that way. Wow. This sounds like a nonfiction 2666, the part about the women. Like a litany of brutal unfolding genocide, probably. But there's no doubt stories within stories. This looks like it could be in the antique section, but it's so beautiful. And I want to read it. It's a great topic. Book of the Seven Seas. Oh man, that's so great. I want my book to have something like that. Huh. That's the author. That's hilarious. Huh. Oh, this book looks awesome. I have another book. It's like an anthology of the sea. I would read this with that. Probably this first and that in order. Strange Tales from the Seven Seas. It's a great topic. I thought there weren't actually seven seas. Is that a thing? Must be. In someone's consideration. Messenger. Really didn't phone it in with old books. I'll tell you what. Oh, this is pretty good. This is interesting. This is of interest to me. Craig Ryan wrote The Pre-Astronauts, which I love. I think this book is so interesting. This could so be a movie. This should be a movie. It'd be incredible. And Joseph Kittinger's Jump would be the high point of it. Did all kinds of interesting stuff. The scientists at Holloman Air Force Base, these military scientists, they were doing all this high altitude stuff. Powered balloons above the stratosphere, like above the curve of the earth, above the sky, the visible sky. You could see the top of the sky. And experienced disorienting zero gravity-ish conditions. Kittinger, when he jumped from that height and parachuted down, he said he didn't know which way was up for a minute. And also later kind of co-wrote this autobiography with Joseph Kittinger. It was like his co-author, helping him get his memoir out, his story. Love The Pre-Astronauts. That's one of my favorite New Mexico-related nonfiction works. It's really good. I think I read it twice. And Prismo read it 16 times. Anyway, I love this matte kind of cover, like this, not shiny. It's nice. But Craig Ryan must have also gotten interested in this side story while he was working on his Kittinger book, or the Pre-Astronauts book, which is also about other people doing amazing stuff, breaking the sound barrier, etc., going above the earth. At one point, the workers kidnapped a ton of cats from neighborhoods around Alamogordo, New Mexico, and sent them to space in high-altitude balloons and parachuted them back down and then sent them back into the neighborhoods. I'm like, that's crazy. That means a bunch of people were like, what's up with the cat today? She is freaked out by something. She's just been under the bed with her tail all puffed up for hours. No one would ever guess they'd been to space. But this is a different story. This is like a pet store owner who, named Nick Piantanita, I think, who was really inspired by Kittinger's Jump. I really wanted to do that same jump that Kittinger did. It's since been done by a bunch of people, including that Red Bull. Like, it was a big Red Bull thing. And that's cool. They broke the record and did it and stuff. And I guess that's how it would be if you did it in a modern way. But it felt less exciting to me because it was like a big energy type drink commercial. But I don't know. With a little distance from it, I'm like, that's pretty cool that they did that too. I was resisting the hype at the time a little. But this is the story of Nicholas Piantanida, who tried it and he failed, and he had like a horrible. I mean, but he just got all the stuff together. He did what I was going to do and talked about for a couple of years. It was just like a dream of mine. I'm not against it still, but you have to have a pressurized suit, and he just went up to his glove broke. Wait, no, I mean, it all broke. Not the first time. I haven't. It's been a while since I read this, but it was like during his second attempt. There's something. His insides and brain basically got scrambled, liquefied with the with no pressure. You just boil. Like when Kittinger jumped, his glove broke and his hands swelled up all huge and got kind of like was in a lot of pain. That was just like a tiny little crack in his glove, I think. But yeah, so this was a compelling story. I remember this and I held on to it. It's a nicely put together nonfiction book. It's not ugly, It's a good looking book. And Craig Ryan's an interesting writer. Tulsa and Portland. Interesting. But I think he's got like a New York connection too, which is I always find interesting when people like love New Mexico and New York and they like take trips to New York, and I think he's written a little about New York. I buy all things Odyssey. I'm like very interested in Odyssey. If I ever see a book, we followed Odysseus, and this is a cool idea. I kind of like this cover too. It's great. Just hanging out. Oh, that's cool. So following the journey. See, that would be cool. I'd love to do something like that. I've always wanted to do like a historical recreation of a route or something like that. I've had some big trips in my life, but I sailed. They have 3 other books. Oh, wow. Even more than that. That's kind of cool. Be a traveler and adventurer and write about it. Nice work if you can get it. That sounds right on. I have an old friend who's kind of like that, Michaela. She just somehow travels all around the world. She wrote a cookbook on bugs, eating bugs one time. Wrote a guidebook. It just does like, writes for this or that blog or whatever. Guidebook service. It's roller derby teams in places. Tag mostly removed. It's pretty bold to put pictures of yourself all over your book. Personally, when I write about myself, I don't really care if people picture me accurately. Like, you're going to picture who you picture anyway, But I guess if you have the photos and you travel around the world, why not? Back cover is the best part. That's great. It's a little wild up here, but I kind of like it. Yeah. I could put together an Odyssey shelf of just books. I mean, I used to have way more copies of the Odyssey. I got rid of a lot during the purge. I had like a stack of paperbacks. I was trying to get all the different versions. Oh, that's sad. Don't think about the books you write. Don't think about it. The Mask of Jove. This was a recent free box acquisition. History of Greco-Roman Civilization from the death of Alexander to the death of Constantine. I wish I could remember where I got this one from. Remember, I hit up a couple of really well-stocked ones in a fancy neighborhood. Guess I could go back and watch those little videos. Give me an idea. After the time I lived in Guatemala and traveled in Honduras and around there, I will always be very interested in Central America. I mean, I think we should be interested in all the continents anyway. All the places, all the experiences of being human and so on. But I like this book. I like the cover design's good. Good job, Linda Robertson. Search of Progress, Colonial Past, the land of his people. Julissa Mary Xmas, Enjoy Latino America. Love Kim. I don't think it's called Latino America. That's cool though. This is given to somebody who's about to travel. That's a good way to travel. Be informed. Read a brief history of a place before you go. Yeah, I like that. I think the most rewarding museum trip I've ever made was one where I knew I was going months in advance and read tons of books about Da Vinci before getting to see his notebooks. It was like so celebrity encounter cool. I was like, oh, I know that teacher. I read about this one. That's great. It was so exciting. I wanted to read everything and see it all. But man, was it crowded. I remember listening to the audiobook of this while driving around. Some delivery job, delivering a newspaper for the college for a while. It was one of my undergrad jobs. Inventing a Nation. It was pretty good. It was interesting. It was insightful. I know some leftists really hate Gore Vidal, but he can be a thoughtful, analytical person. I'm trying to remember why my friend Sarah Century hated him so bad. Maybe he was bad in his personal life or something. What, me? No, never. I think he had a really distinctive voice, if I recall from interviews, but I can't remember what it was. That looks like it came from UNM's Free Pile. They used to do stickers and stuff like that. Actually, I feel like I bought this at a library that had it sitting on their, like, take a book home shelf. Make a donation of $1 or something. Because it's like UNM trademarked the red dot. This book's gotten broken out a couple times. It's interesting. Natural History of Nature Writing. I think it's too small of a history, too narrow of a window. Doesn't really seek to like represent any sort of diversity of voices. And no, that's not woke. It's just in search of a complete picture, you know? Maybe he was just working with what there was that he knew of. I don't know. But it's got good excerpts and good analysis and so on. I remember enjoying it, thinking I'll probably read this again. I want to know this info. Before the great purge of 11,000 books down to 3,000 before I moved into this place, there were other purges. And I'm fine with people picturing the Purge movies every time I talk about the Purge. That's funny. One of the first purges, which you can think of that movie, was of all the like Mormon books in the collection. But some I kept because they were just of like genuine scholarly interest, you know. Sidney Rigdon was a prominent Mormon figure, but he was also connected with other very new culty religions at that time, like the Campbellites. Portrait of Religious Excess. That's just a great subtitle, too. Sidney Rigdon, A Portrait of Religious Excess. And I think his story overlaps with my mom's side of the family's stories a lot, too, the Ohio and Kentucky hill folk. Yeah. Before his conversion to Mormonism in late 1830, the Reverend Sidney Rigdon gained wide attention among Baptists in western Ohio. During the siege of 1828, he converted nearly 1,000 proselytes to the Reformed Baptist, later Disciples of Christ movement. He joined the Latter-day Saints as Joseph Smith's principal advisor and spokesman, serving loyally for 14 years, even after the prophet's polygamous proposal to his teenage daughter. Whoa. Next to Smith, Rigdon was the most influential early Mormon. He imported Disciples of Christ's teachings into Latter-day Saint theology, wrote the canonized lectures on faith, championed communal isolationism, and delivered nearly every significant Mormon sermon until the 1840s, including the famous Salt Sermon and the Kirtland, Ohio Temple dedicatory address. Following Smith's violent death in 1844, Rigdon guided some 500 seceding Mormons to Pennsylvania, where as his following dwindled, he eventually took to wandering the streets, taunting indifferent neighbors. In old age, he still led hundreds of followers in distant Iowa and Manitoba by clandestine correspondence. Today, Rigdon is still revered by some 10,000 adherents in Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, one of those fringe sects. I've met some of those people. Quite a few, actually. I had this American Heritage article I really wanted to write, and I was researching it. I was visiting these groups. Also, I've just met them over the years. Let's see. Yeah, I've met a few. And I've met Owaspe down in Las Cruces. That's different. I met a really wild one in Manti, Utah. Yikes. And I was in Colorado City, where Warren Jeffs would later be prophet, but I was there before him. My dad was like a curious, interesting guy, and he would use his business as an excuse to meet anybody he wanted to meet, basically. And it's pretty clever. Like, I'm thinking about going into business with you all. They were like made all kinds of stuff. They made the faulty O-ring that caused the Challenger to blow up. Weird fact. They Dad tried to talk with them about going into business selling ceramic fireplace logs for gas fireplaces. And they were really interested in it. And I rode around in a truck bed with my dad up in front while just kid after kid got picked up. And everyone kept being like, that's my cousin, that's my cousin. But they all had the same dad. And we went to their dance hall where they had a little bookstore in a corner that had a book about how TV was evil. I remember. I saw all kinds of stuff. I could go off about that place. Anyway, Sidney Rigdon. a comparable figure. He also sounds like Ann the Word of the Shakers a little bit, like that kind. Intellectually gifted, manic depressive, and eloquent orator, social innovator, and chronic indigent, Rigdon aspired to altruism but demanded advantage and deference. When Rigdon lost prominence, his early attainments were virtually written out of the historical record. Correcting this void, Van Wagner weaves the psychology of religious incontinence into the larger fabric of social history. He also wrote a book about Lehigh. Do you think he mentions Footloose? That's where it was filmed. I was in Lehigh when I first heard of Jeffrey Dahmer. I was eating a sandwich at this amazing sandwich shop. They're called Carnivores. And it was in, I'm like, can't make this crap up. And it was in the newspaper. And I was reading about it out loud. And my mom was like, stop reading this. This is disgusting. I'm like, I've never heard anything like this. Can you believe this? Little nerdy kid. What year was that? I was born in 79. That must have been like 94 or something? 93. This will probably say. Oh, 1991. So I would have been like 11 or 12. Okay. Amazing graphic memoir. Imagine going to middle school and high school with Jeffrey Dahmer. That's this person's story. And well told. I already looked at that back in some older video. I don't think anyone watches the older videos on this channel. I watch the numbers. It's like it's only the most recent ones. And sometimes some of the like top ones from like the most viewed list. But whatever. Yeah, the channel's not really growing or anything. It's been stuck at 337 for like a couple of weeks. I think people are out there. I still get comments. And again, I have many motives for doing this channel. I mean, I'll be able to put together all kinds of essays and books and stuff just from transcribing a bunch of these videos. I could do a whole book on the paperback case. I could do an essay, that was a mix of commentary on books and things going on. In a sense, these are also journals. I talk about my life sometimes here and there. Weird. Anyway, I kind of want to read this. Looks good. Looks interesting. I think that's an LDS, meaning Mormon, imprint. I'm kind of surprised to see this. Maybe they're not. They're like, maybe they're like edgy Mormons, like Sunstone Magazine, where you kind of like question things a little. I've never read Voltaire besides Candide, which I've read a bunch. I love Candide. I know I've flipped through this. I've had different copies of this over the years. It's probably good. It's Voltaire. I don't know. It sounds like topical and zeitgeisty from his time. I wonder how that translates. It's probably good. This is kind of a classic work. It's interesting. It just takes a very specific stance. It doesn't so much talk about animal rights, almost much, It's really more about people and environmental factors and so on. Environmental factors influence people and working conditions and things like that. It's well written and interesting and engaging and was a bestseller for a reason. There's a lot of illuminating stuff in this. It really tipped me off to a lot of things, like GM giving buses to all these cities across America in exchange for letting them rip up their subway tracks, streetcar tracks, and just taking over for fossil fuels all over. LA's role in creating freeways and fast food, and yeah, LA figures into this kind of significantly. But he goes all over, and it's really interesting. He wrote another book called Command and Control, and we really hit it off during an interview when I interviewed him for The Alibi. And he wanted to hang out with me after his signing and stuff, and we talked about it. This all happened. But then I thought I had the most hilarious title on my article, and I don't really regret the title. It's a review of his book that was called Command and Control, this other book that he wrote about nuclear weapons. And I think it wants you to be a little freaked out. I mean, even that subtitle, Nuclear Weapons, the Damascus Accident and the Illusion of Safety. But he had it hosted at the Atomic Museum, and he was like, what do you think of the Atomic Museum? And I had a bunch of things to say, because I went to the Atomic Museum with my friend Ty to write a paper about it when I was in literature of the atomic bomb class, and had just read like 20 books on the topic. Taking a class with the great Gerald Wiesner, and those authors that was part of the Native American Renaissance of writing, influenced in part by N. Scott Momaday. Anyway, my title for the article was "We're all going to die in a horrifying nuclear apocalypse." We're all going to die in a horrifying, in a fiery, horrifying. Dang, it was good. It was euphonic. What was it? We're all going to die in a horrifying nuclear apocalypse, I think was what it was. But I don't know why the word fiery keeps coming to me. Was it in there? And I thought it was hilarious. My editor at the time thought it was hilarious. But when I went to the museum for that signing, he was totally cold. I think he was really mad about that, maybe mad about the article in general. Jeez. It's a good, fair article. I had all kinds of positive praise and stuff, I think. It's my memory of it. Anyway, that was a bummer. I thought we were like going to be cool writer friends. But, yeah, was it that headline? Maybe. Now I want to go back and find this old article. I know I got a clipping around somewhere. It's in there somewhere. No. Well, this book is so interesting to me. I've read chapters from this. It's a bunch of different essays. Humanscape, environments for people. I read one on here on the origin of trees in cities. It was very interesting. I don't know. It's just cool that people think about every little aspect of our existence. You know, it seems like everything's so taken for granted. We're all just a bunch of clods driving around. But the world is actually like full of thoughtful, interesting people that are looking at things really closely and with depth and insight. I have this essay that I think is interesting for a bunch of reasons, but one is that I just have continued to add to it and refine it over deep time, like over 5 years now. I've just been polishing this thing. And the instructor story, it's at 15,000 words now, and I'm really thinking it should be 20,000. Like, that's where it should max out. I'm like, at this point, it's become an exercise, and what else can I say about this? And that doesn't mean adding more at the beginning or the end or expanding the scope. It means staying within the scope, even the paragraph count. I've kept it to its original paragraph count for reasons also. It's interesting to just look at a piece of writing and be like, what more can I say there? Maximalism is interesting, and it yields interesting results. I learned a lot from this early writing group that I had, where we just wrote 100-word long short stories. And I don't know how we chanced onto this form. They had to be exactly 100 words. That's like silly. But we were having fun with it. And it kind of gave me a really powerful writing lesson that, like, you don't always have to edit down. Sometimes you have to add it up and to edit up, you know. Sometimes a more interesting question than what can I cut here is what can I add here? You know, what one word would make this really pop, you know, here or there. It's my themes. Even more, my friend Ty's themes. He's got a book coming out next February called Nuclear Family, a memoir of the atomic age, or something like that, and definitely called Nuclear Family. And I just hate the marks on books. At least it's on the bottom. That's a UNM bookstore move right there. I see you. Sad because I like all the people that work there. So why do good people do bad things, Father? I wonder where that is. Have I ever driven by nuclear cooling towers in the West? Must have. I've been to Idaho. I know there's that sort of stuff up there. Manhattan Project. Yikes. One of the most influential things that's ever happened. Not just for the nuclear bomb, but for the infrastructure of secrecy that it helped create. That never went away. Changed America's government irreparably. Which changed the world. Like a hegemony does. You gotta read that one. I'd give it to Ty, but he's probably like, I'm done with this topic. The book is done. No, I know he's still interested. But it's a theme for me too. I also grew up in the end of the Cold War. Maybe not as connected to the labs and nuclear culture as Ty, but there's not a human alive on the planet that's not affected by that stuff. And in the West, yeah. Canaries on the Rim by Chip Ward really is the book on downwinders and nuclear testing in the West, I think. I mean, well, that's nuclear testing. That's a different thing. Yeah, where is that? Is that California or something? Oh, maybe it's the Pacific Northwest. What does this book consider the West, I wonder? California. 1983, Rancho Seco Nuclear Plant, Sacramento County, California. Oh, I just love a beautiful old book. And sometimes even a price sticker can work as part of the milieu. I love it. And I love that screen printed single tone thing. Greenhorns in the Southwest. Even if I wasn't interested in this as a topic, I'm interested in this as a beautiful book. Now, that's an interesting form of wraparound right there. It goes to the back cover, it makes it there, and white. You should do what you can with the visuals you have sometimes. That's from a vertical photo, evidently. A Reminiscence, published in 1972. Wonder if this is good. Sometimes I yawn at such accounts. Then we moved to the desert and everything was different. But not for long, because that's actually true. You do move to the desert and then everything is different. It's where mystics and weirdos go, where people sit on poles. The stylites of old. Maybe not, but other stuff. Definitely met my share of strange hermits in my day. Been one a few times. Oh, just as the river is famous to the fish in Naomi Shihab Nye's poem, this book has been famous, its title at least, to my kids for their whole life. Sometimes one of them will just say, "The good old days, they were terrible," because this is one of those titles that was like by the TV or the door or something often. You could always see it. The good old days, they were terrible. I have read this, and this book is incredible. It's every chapter, food and drink. It's like, stop it with your nostalgia for the past, because people were idiots at different times. Child labor was horrible. No environmental protections was horrible. No working rights were that was horrible. Not like things are perfect now. This book's not in great shape, but it's one I got to keep until I get a better copy. Yeah, it's pretty compelling too. I remember my kids actually looking through it, which they wouldn't always do with books, to my great sadness. Then I would later find out that they did. Like my son Hagen has recently told me he used to just pull books at random off the shelf and read things all the time when he was growing up. I'm like, what, really? Industrial Vapors. Yeah, this is a cool book. It's kind of a classic, I think. What do you call this kind of book? It's an assemblage. But it's a book. It's an illustrated book. A photo history, really. Though the photos are mostly woodcuts, it looks like. I have read this. Well, I'll finish this shelf later. I'm kind of tired. And, the kiddies need some petting. Probably, right? The grass didn't stand a chance. I'm sorry, did I catch you grooming? What a fluff. Yeah, books are cool or whatever, I guess. I don't know. No, books are great. And nonfiction is special, I like hanging out with my nonfiction. This has been kind of nice to look at these and be like, oh yeah, I have these cool books. Because the reading of nonfiction is a cool pleasure. Don't be one of those weird dorks that only reads nonfiction. If I'm not getting information, it's not worthwhile. I'm a firm subscriber of what E.L. Doctorow said, that we go to nonfiction to find out what happened and fiction to find out how it felt. But I think we can bring more of that how it felt into nonfiction too. I'm trying to do that. But it's cool to read something and learn something, When I talk to other people that read, I'm like, whoa. I love hanging out with that kind of mind. I mean, everybody's cool. And, in a way, reading destroyed some good stuff too. Like James Agee writes in Let Us Now Praise Famous Men about meeting people that were just amazing storytellers because they grew up in a completely oral culture and never learned how to read. And feeling kind of bittersweet as the last of those people, were starting to die off. That really is a loss, Not everything has to be about marks on a page. But in the end, I'm pro-reading, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's not like reading necessarily makes you better or smarter or anything. There's people that read just really basic entertainment books their whole lives. And as a friend of mine once said, it's basically just like watching TV. I'm like, is that harsh? I don't know. It's still asking you to make a little bit of an imaginative leap. But ooh, there was just some kind of explosion or gunshot or something. I think that was just a good old-fashioned gunshot. Is there a poem to be made out of some of these titles? The good old days, they were terrible. Inventing a nation across the wide Missouri, the atomic West. We followed Odysseus, magnificent failure. It's about colonization, man. Okay, for now, there'll be a shelf half later of nonfiction. Leave that half of the case for later. Switch topics after this one. Oh, here it goes. I think that's Jimmy Santiago Baca's memoir. That should be in the memoir section. Yeah, that's getting moved. I know it's local and regional, but it's also like a whole life. It's a memoir. I'll leave it just for now. Am I? Place it with a book from this stack. These two books are both called River of the Sun, but one is a nonfiction book about the Gila River, and one is a fictional book about something else. What's that? Oh. Jimmy Santiago Baca's harrowing, brilliant memoir of his life before, during, and immediately after the years he spent in a maximum security prison garnered tremendous critical acclaim and went on to win the prestigious international prize. Long considered one of the best poets in America today, Baca was illiterate at the age of 21 and faced 5 to 10 years behind bars for selling drugs. Placed to stand as the remarkable tale of how he emerged after his years in the penitentiary, much of it spent in isolation with the ability to read and a passion for writing poetry. A vivid portrait of life inside a maximum security prison and an affirmation of one man's spirit in overcoming the most brutal adversity. Hey, that sounds great. And he really is a cool poet. I like a lot of his poems. And he's from Albuquerque. I love it. We'll find a place for that later. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good time out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. Watching good stuff. Mostly reading good stuff. I watch stuff too, but it's good to read. I feel my life feels richer since I've been reading more novels for this channel. It's awesome. You know, I have I don't know, I feel like I have more to draw from or something. I'm more capacious. All right. Take care, everyone. I hope my ear food needs refill. There you go. All right, I gotta eat. Take care, everybody.